Watch this before becoming an owner-operator, updated for May 2024. I'll be reacting to this video from ET Transport from 3 years ago when the market was much hotter. So I'll be supplementing the video with some updated numbers if the financial situation is different. Obviously, trucks are more expensive now, as well as pointing out some contradictory perspectives if I think ET Transport said something inaccurate 3 years ago.
5 things that you would want to know before you become an owner-operator. First and foremost, before you even think about buying anything or doing anything, is you have to know that your life is going to change. When you're transitioning from a company driver to an owner-operator, the responsibilities, absolutely, they grow exponentially. As a company driver, you finish your week, you park the truck, you turn it off, you get in your pickup, you go home. I take my truck, I go home, I put it in the driveway, and I don't just forget about it. I've got maintenance to do. I've got things to do. The things that I have to do with my truck don't stop at the end of the week when I turn it off. You know, when I...
Company drivers should do maintenance too, but I guess owner-operators lose more money if they don't do maintenance at the end of the day and the beginning of the day.
I'm parked somewhere and I'm not doing anything. I'm constantly looking at stuff on my truck. What's this? What's that? Talking with other people like that own the same trucks. What problems are they having? I'm looking to see if I've got any of those issues going on with my trucks. So that would be one of the first things. Know that your life is definitely going to change.
Yeah, I guess the main change is you're becoming much more of a business owner than an employee. So instead of fixed pay, your pay depends on how well you perform, and there's a lot more variables you need to consider. You're
going to be under, I'm not going to say a whole lot more stress, but you're going to be under more stress. For the next thing you're probably going to want to look at as from company to owner operators is what carrier are you going to stay with the carrier you're at? Are you going to go to a new carrier? Is the carrier that you're at going to offer you what you need to sustain yourself or to make the money that you want to make, that you think that you're going to make? So you need to find the carrier that you're going to work at. If you're new in the business, start with a small carrier. If you've been doing this a little longer and you know a little more, you can probably go with a bigger carrier if that suits you.
So usually I recommend switching carriers if you switch from company driver to owner operator. It's just because most carriers specialize in one type of driver and they specialize in taking care of one type of driver. There's a lot of companies that treat their company drivers well and they don't treat their owner operators as well just because they don't have as many. Owner operators need a different type of support when it comes to problems with loads. But for example, if you're a company driver, in the current down market, you gotta do. There's a whole bunch of CPM pay is going down. The company mostly makes the rules in the current market, and owner operators they have a lot more. They demand more customer support from the business. In terms of what he said, with newer owner operators should start with a smaller company, and as you gain more experience, you can move to a bigger company. I don't know why. I actually think it's better to start out at a bigger company. Because of the branding, you're less likely to get ripped off by the carrier you run under. It's just, a lot of owner operators think they're getting ripped off everywhere, but you have some downside protection if you're working for Landstar than if you're working for a much smaller company.
And then after that, you start thinking about, okay, your truck. What am I going to be doing? Am I going to be running flat ground, running the Midwest, or am I going to be running the East Coast? Am I going to be running down Pennsylvania? I'm going to be doing a lot of hills. What am I going to be doing with that truck? Where is it going to be going? So you've got to start looking at how it's spec'd out.
In my opinion, truck specs will have very little impact on profitability. Owner-operators love to tweak out specifics about their truck specs. Most truck specs don't matter. Well, I'll let him finish.
The equipment that's on the truck, the motor, the horsepower, all of that kind of stuff. You're going to have to actually look at that stuff to know that you've got the right truck to do what you want to do. Because if you don't, and here's a great example, the truck I've got right now was built and spec'd to do something else that I was doing before this than I'm doing right now. And I'm paying a bit of a price for it because I'm not getting the fuel mileage out of it. I'm not getting certain things out of it that I should because my truck is not.
Okay, for the most part, and reefer and flatbed is using the same type of truck, around 455 horsepower. It's possible he had a really specialized truck, in which case it does the job poorly, but most specs don't matter too much. Of course, APU matters a lot to save you money on fuel. Other specs, go with the base and go with the cheapest. Extended warranty is a good spec option to have. Most of the other specs don't make a big difference on profitability. I think a lot of owner ops will argue aggressively with me against that because they love the different specs on different trucks. But from what I've seen from a landscape of observing hundreds of trucks around the road, financially, there's not too much difference.
Expect to do what I'm doing. Now, I use it for what I'm doing as the time goes because I'm going to be going into a new truck. But look at that first. Make sure your truck that you've chosen is designed, first of all, what you want, and it's designed for what you're going to be doing.
Much more important than the spec of the truck is the payments on the truck. It's possible that's just going to make it. I mean, this guy looks like a driver, so he understands the specs more. I think that's what most drivers that put the specs of the truck higher. I'm more looking at it from the financial side. Interest rate, I mean, if you're doing a lease purchase, they don't tell you the interest rate. A lot of dealerships and lenders will scam you. You got to keep that payment really, really low. I recommend Google searching for interest rate calculator and typing in the loan amount and the monthly payment amount to figure out what your effective interest rate is, and don't pay over 18%. If you have really, really bad credit, maybe pay at most 22%. I mean, if you have really bad credit, don't start a business. I mean, you're going to be in for a rough time because it's just so you're fighting uphill, especially in the current market. But I think the payment you pay on the truck, that's a much bigger deal than the specs.
Next thing, check out your financing. Make sure your financing is solid. If you don't have a good credit rating, you're going to pay more. Interest rates for trucks are not like your car. I bought a new car. I got 0.9% financing on that car. You're never going to find 0.9% financing on a truck. The interest rates are significant.
And the reason is people default on their truck much more frequently than they default on their car. So most people, they make all their car payments, but there's a lot of drivers becoming owner ops who fail, and they default on the truck payment, so the banks charge more.
Significantly higher because the risk factor and the turnover of trucks coming back in of guys that don't make it while they still owe $100,000 on a truck is much higher. So the interest rates are higher. Know all of this. Get your financing lined up.
I will say it's even harder now in May 2024 to get financing than any other time. We've bottomed out in the freight market. So a lot of owner ops have gone bankrupt, and banks, surprisingly, they're not forward-looking. They look at historicals, and they look at historicals from 1 year ago. So they're looking at all the bankruptcies from 2023. Pride dealership going through bankruptcy, so in 2024, but all the bankrupt history causing banks to be very tentative to loan out money. That being said, I still see decent loans going out. So I think the quantity of loans going out is much smaller, but the interest rates are only a little bit higher. Of course, there's lenders that charge obscene interest rates, but it's possible to find, if you look really hard, and depending on your credit history, it's still possible to find some okay loans.
And know up front if you're going to buy the truck or lease the truck. How long do you want to keep the truck? What's your plan? Have a 5-year plan. How long are you going to do this? You know, set that all out, set that all in place and put it on paper in front of you and stick to it if you can. The next thing you might...
Sticking to a 5-year plan sounds good in theory. It's totally unrealistic. After 1 month, your plan's going to go out the window. You're going to bump into a different... You got to maneuver and steer the ship every single day.
Want to look at is if you're going to be an owner-operator, you're self-employed. How are you going to run your business? Are you going to run as an incorporated business, or are you going to run sole proprietor? Investigate both ways. Which way is more profitable for you or will work better for you? I run myself as an incorporation. It works better for me for what I want to do. I have friends that run as sole proprietors. I see, and we talk and we discuss, and some of these guys are good friends of mine, so they have no problem disclosing what they make and what they do, and I have no problem
I will say, if you do start your own MC instead of leasing onto an MC, I would not run as a sole proprietor because the reason is if you ever decide to sell your MC, usually you sell the business that owns your MC. And if you're a sole proprietor, there's no business that owns your MC. You own the MC, which means you can't sell the MC because once the MC gets transferred, brokers think it's a brand new company. They think it's completely useless. I would put it under an LLC instead of a corporation to own the MC. If you lease onto a company, it really doesn't make a big difference from taxes or any other financial perspective. There's not much difference.
Don't try to do your own taxes. Too many guys in the trucking industry do their own taxes and they lose so much money. Pay somebody who does this. Don't just run down the street and grab John Smith accounting. Find a company, and there's several of them around. I've had the same accountant at the same company for my entire term as an owner-operator since the day I first bought my truck. Same guy, same firm, and all they do is trucking and farming.
How do you find a good accountant? Find an owner-operator friend who is successful and ask what accountant they use. And you might need to ask a few, but that's probably the easiest way.
When things change in the trucking business, they know. They're up to speed. They take care of it. But investigate that. Who's going to do your taxes? Taxes will either make you or can make you or break you. The next thing I think that you would probably have to know about is when you're the owner-operator, you are the first word, you are the owner. The onus is on you, the responsibility is yours, the truck is yours, and the banks, until it's paid for, but it's yours. So you have to know right up front that everything is on you. If that truck breaks down, that's on you. If there's a problem, that's on you. The check engine light comes on. You don't just pull over, phone the office and go send somebody out to fix it. That's on you. Owner-operators have run up I'm not going to say large, but big bills. Know that when something happens, it can cost you a lot of money. I've had to replace an entire motor out of a truck. I blew the motor out of my truck. The company doesn't pay for that. That has to come out of you. That's a $40,000 replacement. You better be able to write the check or have access to funds that can write the check to take care of stuff like that. Being the owner, it's great. It looks good on paper and it's nice.
The number one reason our company loses owner-operators is due to big maintenance repairs where the owner-operators can't do anything.
To have a feather in your cap that I'm an owner-operator, if you don't take care of those things or you're not able to take care of those things, your truck's going to run itself into the ground. You'll be broke in 3 years. You won't make the 3-year mark. I think one of the biggest pitfalls in our business of being an owner-operator is the operating expenses. The price of trucks has gone up. The price of repairs has gone up. Everything that we do has gone up. The money we make has not gone up as fast to keep up with that, but
it's not true for 2021 when this video is made.
Is slowly. I think the biggest pitfalls is our repairs. The biggest problems we have is our repairs. If you don't know when you're coming into this business what potential repairs could possibly cost you, you're in deep trouble the first time that you break down on the side of the road and you call a tow truck and that guy wants $500 on your credit card before he even turns a wheel just to show up. And then he gets you hooked up and then he takes you to wherever you want to go to get repaired and you get a bill for $1,200 just for a tow. Like that's heart-stopping the first time something like that happens. And then you get somewhere to get your truck repaired and if you're lucky you're getting presented with a bill for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. That's a good, I got a friend of mine,
If you lease onto a good carrier, you should be able to call the carrier's support team, and they should be able to help you find a good deal on the tow, and their shop should take care of you and not rip you off and make sure you get a good price. SMJ-FREIGHT does that, and the carrier should really help out.
Joke around that if you can go into a Volvo dealer and come out with a bill with under $1,000, that's a great day. That is an awesome day. You do a happy dance off to the side. My biggest pitfall was replacing a motor. That was 40 grand. 40,000 bucks. I blew the motor out of my truck.
So if you're new and you're going to buy a truck, I recommend getting extended warranty. Usually extended warranty covers the engine after treatment, and you can get it up to Well, you can get it up to anything, but the standard extended warranty is 5 years, 500,000 miles. Sometimes it's 4 years, 500,000 miles. So buy a 2-year-old truck with extended warranty, you're covered at least for another few years, where you can build up some cash cushion.
And it was because I was pushing my equipment beyond its limits. It wasn't even the truck's fault. I have a truck that's built to do this, this, and this, and I added this, this, and this to it. And I pushed the truck beyond what it was designed to do, and I blew the motor clean right out of her. And it was just pure luck for me that I broke down on the QEW exactly 2 miles from the Volvo dealership that I bought the truck from. I mean, you couldn't get any luckier. And I was able to limp the truck to the dealership, and I was lucky as well because they cut me a break. I'd bought some trucks from them and done other things. But the fact of the matter is, I was not prepared when they said, okay, Bri, yeah, we can fix your truck. Here's the estimate, and this is what it's going to cost. And I'm looking at, a number that just to replace a motor that I bought was equal to what I bought my first truck for. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. So that is a huge, huge pitfall. If you're going to be an owner-operator, investigate. Talk to other guys. Like, how much does this cost? How much does it cost to replace a transmission? How much does it cost to replace differentials? All of the things that are regular wear and tear on your truck that are eventually going to wear out and break down, know up front that when it goes, this is how much it's going to cost you. You're going to need to have, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 to replace, a transmission and a differential. The motor blows, depending on what kind of motor you have, you're anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000. And you better have it because the dealership doesn't care. Whoever's got it, they don't care. If you can't pay it, the truck sits right there, or until you can tow it and take it somewhere else and they can sit in your driveway. Until that motor's fixed or until the repairs are done, you're not going anywhere. In this business, if you're a new owner-operator, if you make it from the time you buy your truck, when you make the decision and you get everything lined up and you buy the truck, you turn the key, if you make it from there to the 3-year mark, okay, and 60% of owner-operators, I'm not sure if that's exactly right, 60%, I think it's maybe a little bit higher, 60 to 65% of owner-operators fail within the first 3 years. So if you can make it from the first to the 3rd year, you're doing well. And then from year 3 to year 5, the percentage drops significantly. So the fact that I've made it past the 5...
The reason is freight markets, it tends to be about 1.5 years of good market, followed by 1.5 years of bad market, and it cycles back and forth. So 3 years, you've gone through a full bad market, almost, which is why that's actually a good marker.
5-year mark, and I'm still going. That is my success. And the fact that I'm still able to do it today at my age and run, I guess, successfully. And I've got a good company behind me that I'm willing to work for. They take care of me, they treat me well. I'm willing to work and go the extra mile to make sure that they make their money. They get their value out of me. And I guess it's sort of like a marriage like that, and that would be success. One of the biggest failure stories I've ever, not a big failure story, but one of the stories that I laugh at is I got this friend of mine, and he's been driving 6 or 7 years, maybe 8, and he was a company driver, and he kind of did it right. He was a company driver, he paid attention, he paid his dues, he learned the ropes, and then he decided he wanted to be an owner-operator. He didn't do a couple of things that I would have suggested that he do. He didn't spec out his truck properly. He didn't do those things. But he finally got his truck, and the guy went nuts with chrome, lights, all the interior. He spent thousands and thousands of dollars making this truck absolutely beautiful. And it is. To look at the truck, it's gorgeous to look at. It's a really good looking truck. And then he starts having breakdowns, and he can't afford the breakdowns. But he would have had about $7,000 in the bank if he hadn't slapped all this chrome and all these lights and all the interior stuff. If he hadn't done all that, he'd have had $7 grand sitting there. And it takes me back to when I had one of my Kenworths. I had it all chromed out. I had all the lights. I had a hardwood floor. It was absolutely beautiful. And I was showing it off. I was being cocky, and I was showing it off to a guy one day. And this old man comes walking through the yard. This guy'd been driving since I think Jesus was around. And he says, he sticks his head in my door of the truck. I was, you know, hey, what do you think of that? Look at that. It's beautiful and everything. He takes one look, and he's looking. He sticks his head in. He pulls his head out, and he looks right at me. He goes, yeah, that's nice. He goes, but let me tell you something, son. He said, chrome don't make you any more money, and it don't make you go any faster. And you know what? He's right. I have not chromed out another truck. Any chrome that's on my truck came with the truck. I've not done anything to the interiors of my truck except to add a couple of creature comforts, but I don't need fancy. I need a reliable truck that's going to get me where I want to go. Yeah. It's going to do what I require it to do, and it's going to satisfy the needs of the company, being ET. The industry doesn't decide when you're ready. Let me just put it that way. The industry does not decide when you're ready to become an owner-operator. It's suggested that you're a company driver.
Okay, I'm gonna go through another failure story. If you become an owner-operator and the market's really good, I think one mistake is when the rates are high, that's when you want to drive the most. And I see a lot of company drivers where you get steady paychecks. You become an owner-operator in a good market, and they work 1 month, they take 1 month off, they work 1 month, they take 1 month off, and then the freight market crashes, and then they're completely screwed. So I think that's another mistake. When you're making a lot of money, keep driving, because that's not going to last. Don't expect it to last. Expect it to dry out. You found gold. You're fighting against time to collect all the money before rent's dry.
You do that for a few years. I would suggest 3 to 5. Learn how to drive the truck. Learn to go everywhere. Run the East Coast, run the West Coast, run the middle, run the mountains, run the snow, go up north, run Northern Ontario, run Northern Quebec when it's minus 50. Do all of that, and then make the decision if you want to be an owner-operator. Most guys, I would suggest, if you're going to be an owner-operator, first of all, you're going to need your down payment, and depending on what you're going to purchase or lease, will determine how much of a down payment you need. But if you've got your down payment and then you're going to work as an owner-operator, I would suggest that you don't turn a wheel unless you've got at least 20 grand in the bank. $20,000 is a nice round number, because it's not a matter of if you're going to take a breakdown, it's a matter of when. You will take breakdowns. They are going to happen. It's part of the business. It's just a matter of how big of a breakdown and how much it's going to cost you. If you can sustain yourself with some money in the bank for the first year or so, or a couple of years, you'll do much better. But if you've got $5,000 in the bank and your first breakdown is $9,000, now you're running in the red. And then you'll constantly be playing catch up. And let me tell you, it happened to me at one point in my career. I was trying to play catch up. And it's very, very, very hard to dig yourself out of that hole once you're in it. It can be done, and I've done it, but it's very difficult.
This guy's just, it's a little bit of a negative mental framework to just say, I gotta save money for a breakdown, gotta have this much cushion. I think maybe I've seen owner-ops be successful. They think more positively. They set a goal. Let's save up 100 grand and let's try to get there quickly. And I think that it's a little bit more positive mindset. I think it's a little bit happier coming to work every week and seeing the bank account go up. And then after you get to 100,000, you can invest in another truck. You can set another goal. But I like positive goals more.
You don't go out and shoot the wad on your first truck. You don't go out and spend $200,000 on your first truck. As a new owner-operator, you make some decisions. This is what I want to do, and this is how long. So, a good number for your first truck based on 2021 or 2020 and 2021 standards, your first truck will probably cost you anywhere between $55,000 and $65,000.
Seen people do so, and that's one of the advantages, because there's no fleets sending maintenance crew to check out $10,000 trucks to see if it's a good buy. It's not worth it for them. So you as owner operator, you have that advantage over the large carriers buying trucks.
And with that, most of the companies are going to want 10% down. If you're lucky, you can get it 5% down, but most of them want 10% down. So now you're looking at, $5,500 to $6,500 as your down payment. And you have to figure into the equation, where am I going to be working? Does that company have the miles and the work that I can sustain a payment of this amount. You know, you have a $60,000, let's say you have a $60,000 truck, you buy a $60,000, there's going to be tax on top of that. There's administration fees, there's a whole bunch of things that go with that.
There should not be a tax because you're running interstate, so your sales tax is exempt. Maybe he's talking about some other type of tax, but there shouldn't be a big tax payment because you don't pay to any individual state. There's a RUT 7 form that makes you state tax exempt.
By the time you got a $60,000 truck, you've now got a $70,000 truck after everything's done. Now, I'm going to break, how quickly do I?
Closing fees should be, on a $60,000 truck, closing fees should be $2,000, maybe $3,000, not $10,000. Their dealership might be taking a big cut.
I want to pay that off. Do I want to pay that off in a 2-year lease? Do I want to pay it off in a 3-year lease? Do I break it out to 5 years? The longer your lease, the less your payment's going to be each month, but the more interest in term you're going to pay. In the end, you take a $60,000 truck and lease it out for 5 years. By the time you've paid the last payment, you've paid for that truck twice over. If you break it down into a shorter payment, maybe to make a higher monthly payment, but break it down into, say, a 3-year lease, which I suggest, if you're going to go as a new owner-operator, make your first deal 3 years.
I recommend cheaper truck longer term. So I would target a $15,000 truck instead of a $55,000 truck, and I would drag out the loan longer. And then I would try to save up as much cash as possible by keeping your expenses really low. I think the reason is if you do a shorter term loan and you buy a more expensive truck, a few mistakes or a few bad maintenance things and you're really in trouble. So you don't really have an opportunity to accrue up a cash balance as much as a smaller, cheaper truck with a longer payment.
So you need to find a company that's going to sustain you with a payment of anywhere from $1,800 to say $2,000. That's a comfortable number. You can run and make that kind of money and sustain yourself. So the first vehicle, again, it all up to you as well. It's how hard do you want to work? You know, if you're a single guy and you're living by yourself, you don't own a house, you don't have kids, you don't have a wife, hey, go buy a big truck, get a $5,000 a month truck payment, and live in the truck. Guys do it all the time. Would I do it? I don't suggest it. I don't do it. My payment is where I need it to be for the life that I live to sustain my family and work for a company. I was green. I didn't have a whole lot of people there to help me to pick, but I guess I got lucky because the first truck I had was just a small Kenworth, and I was terrified. It was really intimidating having to deal with sales guys, and my first truck was $42,000. And back then, in 2006, that was a lot of money for me, and that was a lot of a commitment to do. That was a day cab, 2.5 years of driving the day cab, and then went to a highway unit. So it was a bigger truck with the sleeper, and again, it was more money. It was another newer truck. It was
okay. Kenworth W900. That's overkill for. Yeah, this truck is overkill for for most trucking you're going to do. You're going to waste a lot of money on fuel, and you're going to have a higher truck payment for nothing.
There's more money, and again, but you learn some lessons of what you didn't do right the first time when it came to purchasing the truck or leasing the truck, and the options and the specifications of the vehicle and what you're going to be doing with it. So you kind of apply a little bit of that, what you've learned, to the next one, and so much and so forth. And then after that, I bought the third truck, another highway. The rest of them are all highway trucks, and it's the same thing. And the truck I'm in now, I'm just about finished with, and I'll be transitioning out of this truck probably shortly and into another new truck, hopefully my last truck, the one I'm going to retire out of. When I buy the last truck, it's going to be spec'd the way I want it. I'll have it what I want: transmission, differentials, fuel tanks, everything, motor, horsepower, all the little intricacy things that make up the truck so that your truck is best equipped for the job that you're doing. Things that I didn't know years and years and years ago that I know now, that actually by doing so and knowing these and applying these will save you money because you'll have the right truck for what you want to do. The Peterbilts are well built, the Kenworths are well built, they're nice trucks, but they're not what I want for, they're not equipped and they're not the best truck for doing what I want to do. The Volvos are more aerodynamic. I find, and this is just my personal opinion, and some of it is market, but the motors on the Volvos are more efficient. You get better mileage out of them. You get better wear out of them. They drive better. And they're comfortable trucks. I just want to be comfortable in my last truck.
Okay. With our fleet, we don't see much of a miles per gallon difference between Volvos and Kenworth.
You're thinking of doing this and you're serious about it. We didn't have this option back when I started, but one of the greatest options that you've got available to you today is the internet. The internet is fantastic. Obviously we all know what it is and we know what it does, but there's so much information. There are a lot of bloggers out there in the trucking industry. There's a lot of information in there about trucks. You know, when you go to spec and buy and purchase and do your trucks, research them online, right? Everything you want to know about every truck that's ever been manufactured in the history of the world is online somewhere, and you can find out about it. Use the internet. As much as this pains me to say, Facebook for me is yeah, it's something that you look at once in a while and it's funny, you talk to your friends, but I belong to trucking pages, Facebook pages in the trucking industry. I drive a Volvo, so I belong to a couple of Volvo pages, but I also belong to the Canadian Truckers pages. I belong to flatbedding pages. And when you do that, it's not just going in and looking and just, oh, this is funny and that's cute and there's a cute little anecdote. A lot of the old timers, or a lot of the guys that are in there are willing to share information with you freely. You can see something that maybe somebody else is dealing with on their truck, and you can go and you can PM them, or you can go on the page and talk, and most of the time they're willing to talk to you and they'll give it to you for free. Whereas before, you got to take your truck to the dealership and have some guy plug it in and tell you this and that and that, or it takes them 2 hours to find out what that squeak was, and it turns out all you had to do was turn a screw. I've saved myself thousands over the years using the internet and all the resources that it opens up to me. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. And for more great tips on the trucking industry and what we do in this business, subscribe to the ET channel.